Nothing said on 0x Research is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our opinions, not financial advice. Boccaccio, Ryan, and our guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed.
And we're back. Welcome back to another episode of the 0x Research live stream. It's a wonderful Friday morning. Happy to have on my co-host, Boccaccio, Salve Boccaccio, Triple Boccaccio, Pocket Boccaccios, River Boccaccio. And we've also got Noah from Thea, as well as James Kristoff, both prominent members of the 0x Research Telegram. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well. Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
James, you have to unmute and speak, bud.
James, you muted.
Oh, sorry, you double muted me. Yeah, I'm good. Just waiting for Gemini to start trading.
Very good. I'm very happy that we have on Noah and James because these are two men who are very disappointed in crypto, but who I think spend most of their waking hours also thinking about crypto. So I'm very excited to see what we're going to talk about, which I think we're going to kind of rage bait the two, right? With the Gemini IPO. Just like as a precursor, I don't understand finance that well. So I'm very excited to hear James's take on the IPO in general, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I guess we have some history here. We had James on a few months ago when initial news about the Gemini IPO came out, and he famously crashed out. So we're hoping to repeat that again today. But maybe before we talk about Gemini, I do want to just give a quick shout out to Aptos for sponsoring the stream today. You'll hear more about them later. Also, a couple of things, Bach, that we have to run through as per usual. DAS London is coming up next month in October in London. A few of the folks here from the research team and the 0x Research mainstays, Boccaccio, Mark Arjun, a few others I'm sure will be there. And you can get tickets, get £100 off with code 0x100. Also, you can get a free ticket by sending 15 referrals over to our newsletters. So check out links in the show notes or on the DAS website or the newsletters. You can find it. I'm sure you can find it out there somewhere, but giving out a free ticket if you can get enough referrals to the newsletters.
Ian got his ticket that way last time. Did you know that? And he didn't even fake it. He just straight up reached out to hundreds of people.
He created like 10 emails. He faked it.
No, he told me he didn't fake it.
I'm sure he faked
it. They'll be mad if you fake it, but I don't know. I guess if you're really good at it, maybe.
No, are you going to come to DAS London, or is it not
I'm
really
in New York?
That's fair. That's fair. And we did also, I mean, we're going to have it in New York as well, so I think it makes sense. New York people don't want to get out of New York ever. Is this...
Well, yes, but also ever since the change in administration, so many more conferences are happening in New York. And so, like, do I want to spend a week traveling somewhere to, like, speak to the same people that are now coming to New York every 3 months? Like, probably not, unless I just want to go to the place that it's at. So I don't know. I like London, but I don't know. I'm trying to stay locked in for at least the next few months.
That's fair. Not the glowing recommendation for DAS London that I was hoping for, but
I'm going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Everyone should go and buy tickets.
Very good.
Beautiful. One more thing. We are also hiring, Blockworks is hiring a research data analyst. Blockworks, the business, is built on data. So if you love digging into on-chain data, familiar with SQL, know how to work your way around through on-chain data, make dashboards, all that kind of fun stuff, reach out to us, find the links on our website, on the Blockworks website, or in the show notes, and reach out, because we are looking for more data analysts and several other roles as well, of course, but data, of course, is the foundation of Blockworks. So reach out. We'd love to hear from you if you got that dog in you.
Very good.
I think that does it for some of the top of the show shilling. Let's get into it. I think before we get to Gemini, though, maybe just some chatter about the market. I think, Sol and the Sol Eco is doing well right now. Hyperliquid is doing well. I guess for Hype, that's sort of just been like a continuation of, it's one of those big names. They actually make money. It's been growing. Maybe a lot of reasons there. Sol is maybe having its sort of DAT trade season right now. I guess the big news there is like Forward, or ticker Ford, just raised 1.65 billion for a DATCO to buy SOL. I think what's interesting, and I'd love maybe if we dive into this one a little bit, but like the messaging around like Solana DATs has been like maybe very on top of the narrative. I think maybe a month ago it was sort of like, okay, these are front run already. Everyone knows what happened with ETH DATs, so maybe this trade doesn't really work out. But we've seen, like I've seen some tweets already from people putting money into some of these SOL DATs or this forward rate.
He's gone.
Something just
He's
broke.
completely. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, he was getting Daddy.
I'm
We lost
back.
him there for a buzz. Do you want to finish off, or?
Yeah, I was just saying there's been strong messaging around like, I think there were worries about, oh, this trade is already front run, like they're contributing SOL in kind, and now I'm seeing a bunch of tweets and announcements saying, no, we're raising cash. Like this is I put in 50 million that is in cash, not in kind. Like they're trying to very much get ahead of like some of the narrative that was, I don't know, maybe prevalent a few weeks ago. Curious what you guys think about like SOL. It's maybe sort of like a mini SOL season here, similar to what ETH had, and like this sort of SOL DAT trade that's kind of playing out right now.
James, you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was totally wrong on it. So I kind of bought into the in-kind narrative, and thought people were gonna front run it and price it in, but obviously that's not the case. They raised a ton of cash. So I think, like Monday morning quarterbacking at the price action makes total sense to me. If I just think about like who's involved in it, I think like the SOL DATs have a relative advantage over ETH because their spokespeople are much more intelligent, in my opinion. Like, say what you will about Kyle Samani, like he's extremely polished, he's very intelligent, and he knows how to speak properly. So like I think he's gonna go on CNBC next week. So like if you compare him next to Tom Lee, like I think he's just a much more polished and, for lack of a better word, professional person that can sell the narrative way better. So I'm not long sold because of that. But I mean I can totally get why people are bullish on it now. If Samani's kind of leading the charge for this.
I'll add some context there too, because we're seeing both from Novogratz and Samani that their tagline, it seems to be, at least for going on, into the media tour, is that Solana can settle every global securities transaction today. That seems to be like the narrative that they're going with here.
Interesting. I mean, like, I won't get into the tagline. I think it makes sense given like Solana's trying to be decentralized NASDAQ, but I think there are a lot of like low-hanging fruit technical innovations that need to occur before you can like really put a material amount of securities transactions on chain. Like, for example, there's like regulatory constraints as a financial institution to expose your end users like transactions on a public blockchain as opposed to settle on a private database. But otherwise, I think it makes sense. And yeah, I agree with James. I think the market was underpricing how much of the 1.65 billion was cash versus in kind. And I also think that at one point there was discussion around it being $1 billion. So it seems that got upsized as well. And it's felt like just watching SOL since like late July, early August, like there has been like this very continuous slow buying demand that's kept like a floor on price. So yeah, it seems like the other like SOL DATs have been in the market, and you see that just based on the data that's been accumulated. And now you have this 1.65 billion that's being thrown into the market. I'll be honest, like the up movement after the 1.65 billion announcement, all in cash, has been like a bit lower than what I would have expected if it wasn't like at least somewhat priced in. So I'm like still skeptical of like whether we have like an Ethereum type run where this thing goes up like 3x or whatever Ethereum did. Just because I think that like Ethereum had a lot of like upside reflexivity opportunity, because like at the lows it was essentially like left for dead. And also, like, I think people underestimated like how, including myself, how strong these DAT flows could be on the underlying asset. But I think this time around, at least some percent of the market is thinking like, what probability is there that SOL has this like Ethereum type run? And some capital has been allocated on the assumption that like some percent of the time that will occur. So I don't think you get the same pump, but I think it's definitely possible that like SOL can continue to do well. And I think SOL ETH is like a decent trade right now, just given the current dynamics at play.
Yeah, and also just to clarify, like I also don't believe the tagline that transactions are going on Solana, right? Like anyone who like has any experience in professional financial markets knows like that is just many years away from even being a remote possibility. But I think it's like a sexy tagline that people can sell.
It is a sexy tagline, and I agree with you, James, that but like one thing that I brought up to Ryan was I thought Tom Lee would probably be a bigger figure just because like he's very big on CNBC and like I feel like he speaks to a larger portion, but he quickly corrected me saying that Samani is a much better speaker and that he will be very capable.
And I also think the WorldCoin thing with
yeah,
Bitmine was just terrible. Like it was such a narrative derailment for them to do. And especially when he like chirped at that guy on Twitter of like, do you want to make money? It's like, guy, come on. Like this is not the narrative you were selling.
I mean, he had one job, right? And that's to shell one token. And
Exactly.
then he split that into two. Noah, with regard to the SOL DATs, I think when it was originally announced, one of the big criticisms for Solana, and I think in general, Solana always receives this criticism, is that everything that is happening on Solana is kind of front run. It's like an open secret. Everybody else knows, but you know, people are already involved in whatever, but you are not. Feels like this time around it wasn't as bad, or do you think it's purely because like it's cash and previously there were questions about it being in kind and that's why it went better?
I guess it depends what we mean by front run. Like fully priced in, I'll count as separate from front running, and that like it definitely wasn't fully priced in, but it definitely was front run. Like without getting into names, like on crypto Twitter, the last 2 weeks of August, there were people saying, "Oh, Solana September," and like, what do you know? They're participating in the DATs. That got announced like 2 weeks later. So I think you have that. I think you had like a number of like, or for example, AlpInGlow recently passed. Like I think this is somewhat have been like a essentially coordinated effort of we need to get some buying pressure to counteract like this ETH narrative. So like we probably need a few DATs. The Solana Foundation has been involved in some of them. We have like a material upgrade coming. There seems to be something happening with Superstate and like tokenization that will touch Solana. So I don't know. It felt like engineered and front run is a byproduct of how many people were involved in the engineering. But I don't say that in like a negative way as far as like this being engineered. I think that's how things tend to be in crypto. But yeah, I think this is like pretty well telegraphed to the market, like a few weeks before the announcements reached the Twitter sphere.
And I when we had our last live stream, I thought when it starts getting really silly with, I would say a bit more optimistic than the general population. So I think like we always have a bit more leeway in terms of, you know, you see something and you're like, this is the top. I don't know. We can get a little sillier. Do you think WorldCoin is not too bad? I guess like they're having a Camino one. No, Camino's getting involved in DATs. But they're having like sillier and sillier DATs. I saw somebody saying that they're going to start building exposure to Fluid through like public vehicles. That to me feels like a little bit silly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the game doesn't scale. Like I think part of the way that DATs work is like there's a certain amount of market cap that you need to accrete as a part of this like ATM game that you play. And if you don't do that, like the fixed cost to running a DAT as far as like producing audited financial statements, the staff required, like all these different fees just are a massive cash drag. And then like the liquidity on these like underlying tokens that are sub like 10 billion just isn't there. And so yeah, if you raise a bunch of capital and then say I'm going to plow it into 100 million market cap coin, it's going to pump, but it's just pumping to a level that allows you to TWAP. And then once you're done TWAPing, it just comes back down. So it's, in my opinion, most likely an unsustainable game. But I think that's like separate from like, can the market keep going up? Because ultimately, I have a strong belief that what's driving financial markets and crypto is like just a broader fiat debasement, not like there's like this fundamental like bullishness that's pushing everything up, and therefore like when the bullishness like reaches a fundamental like high, it's going to turn around. I think it's more so like when macro changes in such a way so that like we're not printing money and injecting it into financial markets.
So you think it'll sort of be more of like a hindsight thing where, you know, in a year you could say, yeah, Tom Lee taking funds from BMNR and aping them into Octo, you know, playing like DAT squared game, that was pretty silly, but wasn't the last one. You know, the last one was, you know, when some other big figure, you know, ate a bunch of money into XYZ dead coin. But it could just as easily have been, you know, yep, the SOL DAT was the last. That was the last sort of opportunity here because macro turned.
I think there's the macro components, and then there's also the micro component within crypto. And that micro component is, like, to your point, what else is there to do? Like, you had MicroStrategy as the first example of like a digital asset treasury strategy for Bitcoin. It eventually flowed into ETH, eventually flowed into SOL, and like these alts. And so like you're seeing it flow elsewhere. But I think it's mostly a byproduct of like the less risky thing working and someone already doing it. And so you need to go into the more risky thing. And like what stops this could be something specific to crypto, or it could be like in hindsight, the money printing stopped or like interest rates get raised. But ultimately, like the continuation or in like the natural evolution of the market is to like go into riskier and riskier structures, just as like all the low hanging fruit structures get like saturated, or at least that's like kind of how I'm viewing the situation. So I don't know when it stops, but I expect most marginal announcements to get more stupid than they have been.
Yeah, I think that's fair. James, do you have any last takeaways on the DAT stupidity?
No,
or?
I'm like tired of talking about them like everyone else probably is too. It's just like they're just not that interesting. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. I guess I'll close it out. I think it's interesting that like the market has, like I mentioned before with the Solana ones, like I don't know, they've been getting ahead of the narratives and really like reacting to what kind of the market or the consensus has been saying. So like the SOL folks or groups that decided to spin up some DATs, like, you know, the SOL in kind thing became a big, you know, kind of quandary there. And so it was very much like the messaging changed when some of these larger DATs were announced. Like, no, we raised X amount in cash, not in kind. Like, be very clear on that. So I would just expect to see kind of like what you're saying, Noah. As the silliness increases, we'll probably also see like the messaging silliness probably also amps up and reacts even more quickly in real time to some of this stuff. Before we jump into the next thing, though, and before Cashflow's Connor joins us.
Ryan heard James say DATs aren't that interesting. He's gonna yell at him in a second.
Before we get into that, let me do a quick shout out to our sponsors for today's stream. Aptos. Bitcoin DeFi is heating up on Aptos with nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo aBTC and OKX xBTC without the typical bridge risks and high fees. Thanks again to Aptos for sponsoring today's stream, as well as EigenCloud. Is your treasury losing value to inflation? Learn how to make digital assets like ETH and SOL productive with uncorrelated protocol-driven staking rewards. For CFOs, DATs, and corporate treasurers, the path to integrating liquid staking and restaking should be risk managed and aligned with long-term strategic goals. The Productive Treasury Report from Liquid Collective and EigenCloud outlines practical adoption and a forward-looking vision for the role of the modern treasury as a strategic enabler of new technology. Read the Productive Treasury Report today by following the link in today's show notes. Let's get back into it.
I need to add Ryan.
Let's get him in here.
Ryan, can you
Wow,
turn
no
your
camera
video on?
today.
It's really awkward if he doesn't have his camera on.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, but we can't see you.
That's okay.
I do think, glad to have you on, Ryan. I think something that would be great to talk about now would be the Gemini IPO.
No.
I know. You say something there?
He said
I
no.
no. I want to talk about DATs really quick. Can I jump back in on that?
Yeah, go ahead. You have something more on DATs.
I try to comment on X and it's like not working and it's glitching, and I can't comment on YouTube because it's glitching. So I had to come on live. I want to live in the comments.
Yeah, shoot your shot.
I think that they're kind of interesting in that BMNR almost has more ETH than the EF. So it's like, who's running the show? You know? And who do you want running the show? Like, you know, the EF has come out a few times and said like, hey, we don't care about price. Like, it's not our responsibility. And like, imagine if like a CEO came out and said that about their stock. But like Tom Lee's not going to do that. Right. So it's like, I think it's incrementally bullish depending on the entity that's kind of like getting control over these networks. And if, you know, if the Solana one, they're raising 1.65, or they're gonna buy that much SOL. What's Solana now? 120 billion FDV. Like, they're gonna have meaningful control. I mean, not control, right? But they're just gonna have meaningful influence, and you know, that could really change what you think about like management and then the future of these things. So I think that they're getting more interesting.
I think you can say that maybe for Sol, but like, I just don't know how. Like, how is it interesting for ETH when everything Tom Lee suggests is just like objectively not factual, and like things he talks about for value accretion and what he would like to do.
Oh, wait. It could technically go 56x. There's nothing that says it
No.
can't
I
go
don't even mean
56x.
stupid stuff like that. And I'm actually not like not being sarcastic right now. I just mean like when he's selling this narrative of stable coins and like, you know, who's the guy, ex BlackRock guy that went on the Bankless podcast and described like the value accretion to ETH for every $2 of dollars
Oh,
that go on the
God.
blockchain, you increase by $1 of ETH, and everyone nods their heads as if it's real. Like, it just cheapens it, and that's why I think it's so frustrating. Like, it'd be one thing if you just had the 56x thing and it was kind of like funny and goofy, like cool, I get it, let's all like meme it. But when you're trying to like just lie about value accretion in weird hand wavy ways that everyone knows is not true, like it's just stupid. I don't know. I'm just tired of it. I don't think that's why I said I don't think it's interesting.
But that's the ETH dream, right? It's selling
Yeah, but
that
that's
idea that
why
the
ETH's
more
not
TVL
interesting.
you have, yeah, I guess so.
Everyone knows it's not real. Like, it's just stupid. And like that's why I think like this is a great opportunity to sell all of your ETH to Tom Lee. Like, great. Like, I would make that trade all day.
Well, what do you think about like there's going to be a day where Tom Lee says all these things to the market, and the market or the retirees that, you know, subscribe to Fundstrat for a few $1,000 a year, like, they are upset that ETH isn't going up anymore. It's actually going down, and like none of those promises are fulfilled. Like, I think now you have at least someone who owns a lot of ETH who can like crack skulls and get people to do what's right for the price of the asset. Potentially, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but like that is the interesting idea, I think, around a like proper like steward of capital, like actually owning more of this asset than the foundation, which, you know, you could argue hasn't been a great steward of the asset for a few years now.
Yeah, but like that kind of like that presupposes and like kind of gives up the game. In my view of like, oh, Tom Lee's gonna go around and like get every single ETH core dev to like raise the gas limit or like move things to L1 or L2s and L3s. Like, the whole roadmap is like so convoluted and like fundamentally broken in my view that like I don't know, having Tom Lee there to change it and like tell everyone he's got 5% of ETH now, so now they need to listen to him. Like, I don't know, is that gonna happen?
Does he have 5%? Is that the number?
I'm just making up a number. That's probably directionally close to it. 2%, 3%. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it gets more interesting as the stack gets bigger, the stack of ETH.
But does actually controlling that much ETH give you any actual leverage? Like why would like the Ethereum Foundation care now? Is my point. Like, they haven't cared for the last 5 years. So like now some guy on Wall Street has a bunch of ETH. Like, what's he gonna do? Threaten to sell it? Like, I don't know. Like, you're gonna shoot yourself in the head for it.
Well, the EF would have sold it anyway, so the threat to sell it isn't really that relevant, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He has no leverage. Like, he's gonna yell at Vitalik, and Vitalik will write a white paper. I don't know.
Yeah, those are all very good points. I'm presenting, admittedly, I am presenting the optimistic view. and why I do think that Tom Lee in the picture, like, it's not controversial to say this. Him being in the picture is like incrementally bullish, but I think it's bullish in a way that perhaps not everyone appreciates. But yeah, you're probably right. I think the scale of ETH ownership is still too small, but you like, whereas the ETH Foundation like won't use DeFi, right? Like Tom Lee will, and will funnel profits and revenues to the teams that hopefully deserve it. That's the hope. So that's probably another interesting way that he can influence things.
I actually agree on this point. And you see the same thing in Solana and in general. Like when we underwrite a lot of these DeFi applications, like one of the main drivers is like what % of the native asset is like deployed into DeFi, just given the size of these assets, like Sol and ETH specifically. And so like the trend for ETH and DeFi continues to like be up and to the right. And this is a great way to like take capital out of passive ETH holders' hands, put it into someone that like needs to justify their existence, and they're gonna have to deploy that to DeFi. And like there is this like reflexive cycle at play where like you do activity in DeFi while then the chain is like earning more fees or seeing more activity on it. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's like the most likely outcome, that this is like very bullish long term, but there are benefits to these DATs on the underlying ecosystems.
Yeah. Ryan, do you think it's meaningful then that with the Sol DAT and then Camino's kind of positioning themselves to be a market for DATs? Do you think that's a meaningful thing for the Camino side then? Or do you think it's just like buzzwords on their end?
Or you mean Camino receiving Sol?
I need to pull this up. But it's
sorry, probably just not familiar with the news.
Well, I'll pull it up and then I'll pull it up.
Should we talk about the Tether thing that just broke?
Yeah, I was gonna go to that next. Since stablecoins have been pretty big. Big thing that just got announced: Tether is entering the U.S. market with a USAT stablecoin with Bo Hines supposedly as CEO. Let me pull this up. We've got scoop from our boy Jack Kubanek here. Can share this. But apparently, with Anchorage as issuer, Cantor Fitzgerald for handling treasury reserves seems to be their way to like enter the US at scale, which maybe puts a question mark. Like, I don't know, we've got some plasma enjoyers in here, but like, I don't know, does this put a question mark on like all of these stablecoin chain raises as of late, or, USDH on Hyperliquid, for example, Circle making their own chain? Like,
isn't this good for the stablecoin chain? The stablecoin that is the underlying for the stablecoin chain. I mean, like, I'm not getting into how are these stablecoin chains going to make a lot of money, if like all of the transfers are free, et cetera, et cetera. But like, if the product underlying all of it is now legit in the US, then that's fine, right? Like, that's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
Also, plasma, sorry, finish up, Ryan.
No, you go.
Like, the stablecoin chains don't care about the US. I think they mostly care about, they care about the US for DeFi and stuff, but I think they mostly care about, at least how they're positioning themselves is like for payments. And I mean, in the US, you have 1 million payments, like ways to do payments and stuff. But in other countries, you don't. It's hard to get a hold of US dollars. I think that's like their main goal there. So I don't know how, like, this to me just feels like it's good for Tether. And I don't see how that could be bad for Plasma or Stable, or I'm sure there's like a few more that I'm missing that are doing funded.
Yeah, I think like ignore any of the questions of like what's the value accretion to this stuff and how do they actually make money. It's like obviously objectively good if Tether's building a US based like blessed stablecoin for sure.
Yeah, probably the only person that clearly suffers is USDC sled.
Circle, which going to zero. Yeah.
They started buying Hyperliquid this morning, so I think they're gonna make a post. They bought like 5 million USD.
What's the strategy for Circle here? Like, if you see Tether coming to the States, like what's your move?
Didn't they already cash out?
I have no idea what they're.
Jeremy Layer still works there, so I don't think he cashed out.
I mean, he had like a 8-figure secondary, a few weeks ago. Given he still has a lot more money, so it's not that meaningful, but there is some secondary being taken off.
Let him buy a house, man. Let him have fun. Let him have fun.
You can always be worth more. So I don't know.
That's true.
It feels like that feels like that's usually not the right argument for, people operating or managing companies that are worth multi-billion, because then probably the next step for them is to then be worth 100 billion or a trillion. I guess just like operationally, like as Circle, I mean, I feel like they've been sort of fumbling the bag for years now on really like dominating this space as the kind of de facto US stablecoin. But there's seemingly so much more pressure now, right? So surely you have to like amp up efforts in some way or another.
Can I say something very short, and then we'll let the actual people who know speak? I think Circle got away with, just because Tether was not trustworthy in the US for some time, and because the West doesn't like Tether, they just got away with it. They got kind of lucky, and then they ended up signing a massive deal to share 50% of their revenue with a company who doesn't innovate that much as well. And now Robinhood is like going into crypto, so Coinbase, I don't know how they'll do. And Tether is anointed and allowed in the US and has the like regulatory backing or whatever. Like they're more and more trustworthy that I can't imagine. And USDC is one of those companies that's extremely slow, right? It's like Circle, Coinbase, Ethereum, quite slow. They move very slow. They don't really do the pushes that they have to do, in my opinion. So I just imagine Circle very slowly fades into obscurity.
I think that's the reasonable base case, but I think that is probably a pattern that you see in general for public markets over the past 5 to 10 years with like fintech IPOs, where like a lot of them, that's like the cash out moment, and a lot of the growth prior to the IPO is when like the CAC to LTV ratios make sense, and then right around the time when like their growth seems to be stopping, or like they see competitive pressure, they'll go IPO. I think like the issue now, and maybe we can talk more about this when we discuss Gemini, is that like it's one thing to have all these growth companies be private and be selective with what information they share as to not like reveal how weak they are. But once you go public and you're forced to like continuously share information, your negotiating leverage really changes. And so I think that's like the main issue with Circle, is that like if you didn't know what their average distribution deal was and like what take their distributors were getting, now you do. And if you were like as a distributor thinking like, oh, I was only going to give them like, or take 10%, now I'm going to say, well, I want 50 to 75%. So I just think Circle in general is challenged, and they need to like build out more products as to not like fall under the label of like being a money market fund long term, or like have the economics of a money market fund, which is kind of like what it looks like today.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was kind of like disingenuous to like really market this thing as a technology company to begin with, right? And I think a lot of people are kind of getting wise to that now. Obviously, the valuation doesn't reflect that, but like long term, it seems probably most likely to me.
What other products do you offer? I've always thought the same, that kind of the stablecoin should be free and then you monetize in other ways. I don't know. What are Thea's takes on those like additional business lines? Like what makes sense?
I am not an ideas guy. I'm good at listening to ideas and trying to assess them. But yeah, I don't know. I think like going into the payments market could have made sense. I think ultimately like we'll figure out what the best tangential products are, because it's going to be those companies that offer those tangential products that like start to integrate into the stablecoin market. So yeah, I probably, if I were them, would have like been more acquisitive as to like build out a remittance business or something of that nature, where like the take rate they can justify on volume is pretty high. But even then, like that's like a slow fee compression to zero. So I don't know. I think payments in general is like a hard market, and same with stablecoins. You just need to take such a large percentage of the market in order to like be generating a real amount of cash flow. So kind of a cop-out answer, but I don't know exactly where they should spend their time. But remittances and payments is probably like the most immediate. place that I would be focusing.
Yeah, you got. I think it's payments first, and then some suite of financial products. Yeah.
It's interesting that like Stripe has made acquisitions in that area, as of late, and Circle has never taken the steps really into that bullpen. Feels maybe it just speaks to the operation of the business there. We know Stripe is a behemoth, and they move quick.
ETHFi makes a lot of money from their like ETHFi cash product, increasingly more and more money, and they show all of the transactions live as well. So it's like it's a broken product that makes a lot of money. So I imagine Circle could have just made that not broken and probably made a lot of money.
Like a social product where you're showing off how much you're spending.
Well, I don't think you
ETHFi is
should.
doing?
That's what unintentionally that is what they're doing. I don't think they were imagining that people would build out Dune queries to figure out who's spending how much money on what. But that's like what it's ended up becoming. But I think Circle could have done that, but like private potentially. Feels like that would have been a good use of time. Like I would have probably used a Circle card. I trust the USDC as much as I can trust any stablecoin. So I would have.
I feel like they could have easily done a Circle card. Like, I mean, Coinbase has their own card. You could have easily done very similar product rollout with similar rewards offerings.
Yeah. But what about instead we hire too many people and then we make Coinbase do the work and give them 50% of the only revenue source that we have? Does this also make sense?
Okay, speaking of other maybe crypto companies that are in the IPO market outside of Circle, Gemini is the big one today. So they priced at 28 a share, raising at or being listed at a valuation of targeting $3 billion or so, $3.3 billion valuation, raising $400 some million. James, we've talked about this one before. I don't know, Ryan, I saw some comments from you as well on Gemini. I'm just curious, like, to me, it seems like this is like way down the list of like crypto centralized exchanges that you'd want to be looking at. I don't believe they're profitable. I mean, is this really just like crypto narrative is hot, like Circle IPO did well, Bullish IPO did well, throw some money at Gemini, I hope it pops, but otherwise there's not much there?
So I'd like to ask a question, and all four of you give me your best guess. So over the last 24 hours, what percentage of Bitcoin trading volume was done on Gemini?
I'll go first. 75 bits.
Yeah, I was gonna guess less than 1%.
Yeah, I'll say 25 bips.
I'll say 0.5%.
So most of you guys are off by an order of magnitude. So it was 0.06%. So yesterday, BTC dollar value traded, I'm just pulling this from Coinbase, 46 billion. And Gemini has done $31 million on the BTC USD pair. So like to Noah's point before of like, yeah, you didn't know about the distribution deal of like when Circle was more cagey about their financials. Like you can just look at the volume that is done in this exchange and just objectively say that this is not a real company. Like Buck, what does Hyperliquid do for like BTC spot now, like daily volume?
Definitely more than that.
No, yeah, yeah, of course. But I'm just saying, like, this is just not a.
I gotta pull it up.
This business is not real.
Yeah, for spot, I'm actually not sure. One sec.
Something I find interesting as well, like I think just anecdotally, the only people I know that have used Gemini have used it for their rewards card that gives back like an absurd amount. Like I think they've historically given maybe 4% back for using their card like in crypto. I don't know. Maybe they're just giving. I don't know like fundamentally if that's them burning money to subsidize that rate. Okay, I assumed it was by like 1% or 2%, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you can have a loss leader and then also the exchange doesn't make money. That just feels like it's.
I have the answer to that.
Money burning machine.
If your business is credit card points, like you got a fucking problem.
James, I have an answer for your question on. So Unit Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin on Hyperliquid, did $456 million of volume over the past 24 hours. This is based on CoinGecko, so it might be a bit off, but it should be fine. Okay, so do you think it will? My question to everybody now is: do we think that it will pop at launch and go up over the next, let's say, week?
I mean, it's 20x over, or is it 20 or 30x oversubscribed, and Robinhood's getting an allocation, right? So probably. Seems like every crypto IPO is going up. I think, we were at a dinner where we all thought about the Circle price and all bet that it would be lower than the IPO price by the end of the year. And I think that's pretty realistic as well. I think there's a lot of euphoria in the market right now.
The counter I'll make was that supposedly Klarna's IPO was oversubscribed by up to 25 times, but it only popped 10% on list day. So I don't know that oversubscription really means anything, especially when it's, if you're indicating interest on an amount of size, and then, I'd have to imagine like retail users on Robinhood, like you're kind of playing the game, right? Like in essence, this IPO market is something of a lottery. So it's like, sure, I'll set aside $5,000 and maybe I get filled for 5 shares, but I'm probably not going to buy more. I'm not going to push the price up. But if I, got my 5 shares, I'll try to flip those for the 2x. I just wonder how much of an impact it actually has on, once the market's actually open, that oversubscription stat feels a little bit meaningless.
Okay, so up or down? Let's play the up or down. Danny, you didn't give an answer. Up or down?
I think it'll probably be up, but
That's fair.
you want a percent? I don't know.
I think it'll trade flat. I think it'll close today around $28.
Okay. No, I don't know if you're able to say up or down due to your position, but if you want, you can just point and then we'll just guess.
We don't have a position in Gemini. I think probably up in the short term, but I'm like quite negative on it at 3 billion over like any longer term period of time.
Okay. What like crypto IPO would you guys be excited about, or like crypto related IPO would you guys be excited? If you were like, wow, if these guys like go public, I would scoop up as much as I can. I mean, depending on price and stuff, obviously, but
I feel like objectively more interesting ones would be like Kraken, Phantom. Not saying that like, I mean, what's the valuation relative to their actual numbers, but more interesting than Gemini for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Phantom's
like,
interesting, but I feel like it's going to be a long time before that happens. Sorry, Noah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Phantom's interesting. I think Fireblocks is interesting, but I would have to like see the business because I haven't looked at it for like a year and a half. But I think they're like reasonably positioned. Stripe is probably a bit of a cop out, but I would like that to be public. Those are a few that come to mind.
Fireblocks the custodian.
Yeah, they play in the kind of like tokenization space where like they work with a lot of like traditional players. And just on that line of logic, I think Anchorage is probably also like directionally interesting.
Yeah.
Fireblocks, Anchorage, and Consensus, I think, are all really good TradFi stories. It's like, get the picks and shovels.
Consensus as a MetaMask consensus?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Lubin.
Why is that a good business, right?
Consensus is an interesting one because I think Boccaccio's reaction tells you how CT would feel about it, but maybe it would still perform like Circle did.
I guess
they own like Infura too.
Yeah.
They own a bunch of stuff.
The story is really good. They've got a huge portfolio. Yeah.
I forgot about it.
I could see that being a hated.
MetaMask, and I was like, dude,
yeah,
what?
No, spin off MetaMask. I'm looking for the MetaMask IPO. MetaMask prints or did last cycle, I remember.
How did you guys feel about Bullish, by the way? Was that like a nothing burger? Like it's whatever. It's CoinDesk and the associated exchange that nobody is familiar with.
Yeah, I didn't even look at it, to be totally honest.
Because that one got, I mean, just comparing it in terms of like what an outcome might be, like Bullish went 2 or 3x at list, and then it's down since then, obviously, but I think still above the IPO price. Not that meaningful, but I don't know if you want to try to pattern match a potential Gemini outcome here. Not saying that it's going to pop that hard.
Yeah, I have an opinion on Bullish. Prior to it IPOing, never really thought about it. Maybe towards unlocks, I'll do some research and form an opinion. But I think in general, like the opportunities for crypto exchanges are as acquisition targets, and to a lesser extent, they have to pivot into offering like a full suite of products. Whether that's like they go the crypto native neobank route or they go the traditional brokerage route and their entrance is via crypto trading. The second one I don't think is like an easy one to do. I think it's much easier for like interactive brokers to like add crypto support as opposed to like Coinbase adding equity support. But yeah, I think like below a certain valuation in like public markets, for like some TradFi companies are going to be able to justify like buying some of these companies. So, like that's kind of like my only logic for why Gemini could potentially be worth $3 billion is that like someone values some of their IP or licenses, but I haven't looked under the hood to like understand what that's actually worth.
Yeah, that's like the NASDAQ. I mean, that's the case for the NASDAQ investment, right? It's like they have infrastructure for staking that they think is useful in a distribution to a new like customer set. Probably not worth $3 billion, but
I wanted to bring this up, but Anchorage is doing the Tether USA dollar thing. Just in case anybody else hasn't seen it, I just saw it. Danny, what else do you have in store?
If we're going to jump to something else, let me do our last quick shout out to our sponsors for today's stream. Thank you to Aptos. With nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain, supported by a secure, fast, and affordable MVM environment, Aptos has become the BTCFi growth chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo's aBTC, OKX's xBTC, without the typical bridge risks and high fees. With support from Echo, OKX, and Stacks' SBTC, Aptos is the place to go for best-in-class yield on Bitcoin. Appreciate the support, Aptos. And our other sponsor for today's stream, EigenCloud. Corporate and protocol treasuries face a major challenge today. Cash and traditional instruments are losing ground to inflation. A new industry report from Liquid Collective and EigenCloud lays out the next evolution of the digital asset treasury, moving beyond just passively holding Bitcoin to actively making digital assets like ETH and SOL productive through liquid staking and restaking. For CFOs, DATs, and corporate treasurers, the path to integrating liquid staking and restaking should be risk managed and aligned with long-term strategic goals. The Productive Treasury Report outlines practical adoption and a forward-looking vision for the role of the modern treasury as a strategic enabler of new technology. Read the Productive Treasury Report today by following the link in today's show notes. Thanks so much to the sponsors. Let's get back to it. I think one other topic, something that James wanted to talk about, which I think is good, just when it comes to our space in general, is like the cyclicality of narratives. In the SOL space, like one of these has been like this kind of Launchpad war meta rotation where obviously like Pump is still kind of like the dominant leader here, but over the past few months we've had like, you know, you had Believe, Launchcoin pop up for a bit, Bonk kind of made their run for a month. We saw Light go for a week or two. I'm seeing some other smaller Launchpad like new ideas of the same like kind of game popping up again. But we I think outside of Launchpads as well, like we continuously see like little narratives and metas like pop up for a few weeks, maybe a month here and there. I don't know, James, you said you had some thoughts here. I want to kind of give you the floor a little bit to open it up.
Yeah, no, I think they're like, look, I think for like an individual that can take advantage of them, they're very interesting because like we just keep repeating the same pattern over and over and over again, where these things get crazy amounts of hype and they put out one or two little tweaks to their like, I'll just call it a Ponzi game, like Light's, you know, Fever and mechanic that everyone came out and was just like, oh my God, this is the second coming of Christ. And like, obviously, like you can't do this as a fund or anyone, but like for a retail person, like you can put a decent amount of size into this kind of stuff and do quite well on it. It is, I don't want to say repeatable, but like you can predict a little bit like the hive mind of CT is going to go crazy over what are fairly stupid and like not novel concepts, like what Heaven did and other kind of launch pads like that. But I just think more broadly, it's just very instructive of how quickly we're like speed running stuff and getting super bowled up and sending these launch pads to, I don't know what Light topped at, like over like 150 mil FDV, I think.
I
In
think
like
like
a couple of
300
days.
mil.
I think
Really?
250,
Okay, maybe I'm
250,
doubling it. Yeah.
300.
Which is just like obviously idiotic and stupid. But you know, I was like
The flywheel.
publicly I was super bullish on it. But you know, didn't sell all of it at the top, but I sold a lot of it. So yeah, I think it's great. I love it. Like keep doing more of these things, but I think it's a little depressing that we just like speed run these things in like 5 days.
Just as a stat, if you pattern matched it to Launchcoin, that topped at 343 million. So not too far off there, at least in terms of kind of where that went.
Every 4 months we do a flywheel exchange, and you get to sell it at 300 mil, and you're upset about this, James? Come on.
I'm not upset. It's just goofy. Like there was another one that I bought, Star. So like this was like probably like it was just in like July. So like they did an ICO, and if you bought it, you were instantly underwater. And then like the team realized that they had no product whatsoever, and then it kind of just chilled for like I don't know, maybe like a month and a half doing absolutely nothing. And then like last week, I don't know what happened, but like the thing just went up like I don't know, like 40, 50x in like 3 days. Um, and then it crashed like 98% in like 2 days. They did a new token launch yesterday, I think. They did an ICO for some new vaporware company, and they raised it like 350K. And then they started trading, and then that token was down like 75% instantly on like the first wick. Like it's just funny watching this stuff happen. Like then like Star was even more condensed than Heaven was. Like it happened in the span of like 2 days.
Yeah, markets are a sum of their like the characteristics of their participants, and in these like ultra niche corners of the internet, like you have very different participants. And I think, you know, we found like I can remember a decade ago in small cap stocks, like I mean not small cap stocks, like penny stocks, you would get these like similar runs around like social media narratives, like things claiming that they were the next Facebook and they had like one registered employee. And you're just seeing, and now the friction to launching those things is so much lower. So you get these games, and people want to play those games. And I will come to the Star team's defense. I know them; they are good people, and they're building a real thing. And some of it, and a lot, I think a lot of it's cool. But yeah, I agree. Like there is a corner of the internet that's playing a narrative game. You know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't mean to call out anyone specifically. Like I think there's a problem with like how rapidly these things come to market, and like same thing with Believe. Like there just is not a completely, you don't need to be a completely thought out company to launch your product. I get it, but like there is still, where is the flywheel, for example, for Believe? Like it's just kind of embarrassing at that point. The teams should have this stuff pretty well fleshed out, I think, before they raise money. Like it's like real money these people are making, right? Like these small teams of less than a dozen people are walking away with like 8 figures sometime in real cash. So that's kind of like my problem.
Yeah, you need a mechanism to keep teams honest. And I don't know a lot about Futarchy, but I think
MetaDAO mentioned.
Yeah, but I do think that there is or I think of like the layers that you could apply to these raises to keep teams honest. I'm getting more and more interested in something like Futarchy to, when the biggest holders can say like, hey, you guys aren't fulfilling your duties, like give us the money back type of thing. So there needs to be a creation layer, and there needs to be a backstop.
Disclosure, as an investor in Futarchy. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that there needs to be more transparency. Although I think that's like somewhat separate from like meme coin Launchpads, just because like it doesn't feel like the coins that are using these Launchpads are like real companies or pretending to be. Like I recognize on Launchcoin Believe, like that was kind of the premise, and that's why like I personally thought it was like quite insulting to like people's intelligence. But like the rest of them, it just feels like they're just meme coins, and the Launchpad has like a token underneath it, and so as it goes up in price, its participants get wealthy, they speculate on meme coins, flywheel, then everybody realizes, oh, this is now 300 million, and this is a small team, and ephemeral that's like easy to build. So
they give the game away right away, because like Heaven, all they talked about was how the flywheel works to increase the price of the token. And I think I saw 0 posts like when they were launching the DEX and the Launchpad product of like, these are the types of products that we would like to incubate and what we want to build on the platform. It was literally just talking about their fund that's going to buy random coins on the platform, and then how much that's going to make the light token go up. And 0 lip service given to what they're actually going to build.
Guys, dare I say, Pump Fund is actually probably the best implementation of this system, where you don't really know how much the team is going to buy, and they have multiple applications going live. Or am I going to be shot to death by?
No, I mean, like Pump Fund's Lindy now. Like, I don't think we need any more Launchpads. Like, it's kind of like over. Like, just totally don't even talk about like, do you think Launchpads are good or bad? That's irrelevant here. But like, I don't know how you could raise money from a VC now to build a new Launchpad. Like, if you're funding a new Launchpad, like, I'm very curious what you think your edge is, to do that on like a
I don't know,
longer
man.
basis.
Football.fun popped off like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but it's died since then, right?
Yeah, but didn't they went through Alliance? They got a little
Did
check
they go
there.
for Alliance?
That was
I'm
so
cur-
funny. People were showing me that, and I remember one of the logos was like the New York Jets team with the fucking Houston Texans logo on it. It's like no one even cares to put like the most basic level of like thought or research and proofreading into this stuff.
I think the counter there though is just like, I don't know, people see the outcome of Pump, and so naturally I think there will be funds that want to chase that and invest in a story that can maybe follow it, whether or not the chances of success are really there.
And at this juncture, you can compete with Pump. Bonk proved it, and they still don't have like the sufficient moat where I think they can run away with it.
Well, Bonk proved it for a week until their money ran out, right?
A month? They proved it for a month.
Okay, they did it for a month and probably spent way too much money, and then they got really, really loud in like everybody who was still posting about Pump, they got really loud under their tweets, and then the check stopped coming in and they just stopped. Like, they did it for 1 month, but there's no like, I mean, I'm sure there will be a competitor, and I can see there being like a reliable competitor eventually, but
If it was a cash burning exercise though, then it does prove that like with enough funds, like if someone really, really wanted to displace Pump, they could come in and just do exactly that. Burn the funds and repeat what Bonk did, and until maybe enough time passes and now you're the Lindy platform. But I don't know. I think it would very much be an exercise in like, we're maybe not going to make money for a long time here.
I actually do think the social stuff on Pump is interesting. Like, I think they're intelligent and dedicated to actually building something outside of like just launching coins. Now, will they be successful? I don't know, but I think it is actually quite interesting.
Can I say something about the social stuff? Wait, Ryan, you go first, and then if I say it after that, it'll be much fun.
No, just go for it, Bach.
No, please go first.
I was gonna ask, how many Pump Fund streams have you watched this week?
No, me, 0. I never will. Like, I think it's all stupid, but like I'm not the marginal consumer of that, right? Shockingly, but like I think a lot of people will.
I heard that's getting a lot better. I heard the content on the live streams are a lot better. It was like a ghost town. It was a ghost town a few months ago. So we'll see. I think the Gainsey pod is hilarious.
They improved the payouts to creators. The rewards to creators are higher than they were before, which maybe was part of an incentive to get more.
And I listened to that podcast with Noah, not this Noah. Like it's pretty cool. Like they will, if you send them like cursory level information of what you're gonna do, they'll send you like a streaming kit to your house. Like that's pretty cool. I think that's like a like they'll send you like I think like $500 worth of like a mic, keyboard. I think like a very basic PC.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's awesome. Cool. I think that's a very smart like move on their end to onboard people.
That is cool. I will say only people who are like really interested in the streaming product, they're usually like over 30 for some reason. Like everybody else I know is like, oh, the streaming product is that interesting. Like I don't see how it captures it. Versus like people over 30 are like, wow, this is like the future. This is gonna do fantastically. So I don't know how it's going to work.
Mark just called me old.
Why do you think that is, Bach?
I don't know.
The generational divide.
I don't know. I'm nearly 30 as well, so I don't really have much to say, but I don't know. I
don't know if anyone in this call is really like the true target audience of the creators that are streaming, but I think there maybe is something of a point there. But I do agree that like, I mean, they need to onboard creators that otherwise like, if you're turned off of like a Twitch or a YouTube because you get one viewer, like you can probably get 4 or 5 if Elon sends you a mic and a camera, and maybe if he reposts a clip that you put out on your second stream.
Yeah, and what I love most about it is like they're clearly at this point not going the route of like going to like Kai Cenat or something and saying like here's $1 million, like $100 million, sorry. They're effectively like building their own quasi like venture portfolio of streamers. Like they're just onboarding thousands and thousands of random people, the vast majority of which will never make any money. But to the extent that they actually get like one or two of these next people, like that is going to be a level of brand loyalty and exposure for those streamers that like will pay off far more than it costs the cost of acquisition for the failed ones, I think.
I wonder if they should do at least one acquisition though, just to get.
I don't think they should, and I don't think they will. I think they're smarter than that. Like
I think it's a waste of money.
yeah, totally.
Really, to get like Kai Cenat for a year.
Too much
is a
money.
waste of money. Let's.
It's too much money. Those are like recurring revenue deals. Like if you get Kai Cenat for a year and then he leaves, like I don't think it's just like a terrible look.
It's
just
just
so
the way that it
good.
would work is like the viewers you would get would all leave when he goes away, and the amount of money you'd have to pay for that contract like would actually be like greater than that of like an NBA or like pro football player. Like it would just be a stupid amount of money to get him on your platform for 1 year.
That makes sense.
I think it's a different status game as well, and one that like might not even work. Like I kind of there's like a fork in the road. I think it's like okay, it's a different stat. Like live stream plus token is a way different status game than live stream. So I think you need new creators for a new status game. But then like the fork in the like the other side of the fork is that like I don't know, live stream plus token like kind of sounds silly, and like we could all be here in a year like thinking like why did we think that this was going to work? I don't know. There's experimentation around it. Like I think like a multi-token kind of live stream where you're like kind of trading against like an outcome or like a yes no market or whatever. Like maybe they can set something like that up. I don't know. It just seems kind of far out there, and it's a blank canvas for a lot of experimentation, and then who knows if that's going to work.
They should onboard Mr. Beast.
That's Zora's doing that right now, actually. So we need.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, we got to do the math on. So like, what are the odds that Mr. Beast goes
Who
on
posted
fun?
that? Who posted?
Is anyone
that?
talking about how Zora has stopped?
No.
Like, I don't think it's fair. Everyone talks about it when Zora's doing.
I would like to
amazing,
talk
and no
about
one
it.
talks about it when it stops. It
Sure.
stops all the time.
This is not a good idea, right?
I might be the first person on the internet to have acknowledged it.
Define stop, like the meta stopped.
I'm getting the data.
Like the trading volume is back to pre Coinbase base bankless marketing campaign.
Yes. I'll give you
Is anyone
which is when a token trades low enough and it starts going up in price and its users own the token, they start to generate activity on the underlying application. And if the application has product market fit, that activity will be sticky. And if it doesn't, you will see churn. Getting the first part is somewhat of like a path dependency. The second part, 90+% of the time, is going to like have it go to zero eventually. So like that's all to say. Like I don't think the outcome here is like bad. I think it's like always to be expected that 90+% of the time this thing is going to go back down because it didn't find like true product market fit. But yeah, I don't like the like disingenuous like shilling around it, where like people can't be honest about the fact that like we're experimenting, it may go wrong. Like the reason it's going up in price is partially a function of like ETH going up in price rapidly, this being like a quote unquote beta play. So I know that's my rant.
Right. Yeah. No, it's the future. It's changing the dynamics of creator monetization right before your eyes. Coinbase will be the next social app.
I also think
that's a bit
Sorry,
unfair, though. Sorry, James, finish up.
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. Yeah.
It is kind of the pump story with streaming as well. So
Yeah.
all I was gonna say is like I keep saying it. I feel like talking to people about this stuff is like normal people in the world do not want every single aspect of their life financialized. Like they just fucking don't. And like people need to just stop.
I agree.
Stop trying to monetize your social media networks. It's just fucking never going to work.
Yeah, but that, like,
it's why GameFi didn't work, because people don't want financial, like people hate making financial decisions. So when you force them on people, it's like creates a negative experience. Like think of how much people in the US hate math. No one wants to do math.
Okay, but this is also like the wrong. I think in my personal opinion, there's like two things that can be said to this. First of all, most of the content created on the internet are created by professional content creators and not by everyday people, right? So like realistically, you only want to onboard those people, and then those people tip or watch. So I don't know if this works in the Zora thing, but like with streaming, you can clearly see it. The second thing is more people broadcast their life now than they did 5 years ago, than they did 10 years ago. So there's no like, I'm not doing the Jesse Pollack, we're bringing the whole like
No, but all the
bring everybody on
monetization of that
chain,
stuff.
but I'm just saying there is a reality in which V2 of this product of Zora is better than the V1, and in 5 years, 10 years.
No, it's fine, but like the monetization for all the stuff you're talking about, it's all real, but it's all abstracted away from the end consumer. Like no one wants to come home and like it's just like no one's gonna come home and they're doom scrolling in bed and they're gonna say, "Hey, I love that post. Let me buy 0.4 Zora worth of the post that was coined." Like it's just such an absurd concept for a normal person to understand.
Technically, though, that is already a thing. Like, I think
On
Bach
Twitter.
has a part here about it. It's on every platform nearly. Like, if Reddit, you can, pay to gold a post. On live streams, you can, explicitly pay to donate to a streamer, like this type of thing. I know it's different than like having it be a token and a coin that you like buy, and maybe then that coin goes up. I think that's a bit more different of a dynamic.
Just thinking of like what I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like the data consumption of people on TikTok and Instagram that are scrolling through those types of feeds just like dwarfs anyone that's on Reddit and like tipping on that stuff, right? And
I would agree with you. I think there's like two markets here. There's like a general market of like the mass media consumer who just like wants to watch the funny video, and then there's like, the people that trade CS:GO skins, and that's like their whole life. And there's the CS:GO skin marketplace is like, multi-billion dollars for just items that are traded on the Steam marketplace.
To be fair, so I used to trade CS:GO skins. That's how I got into crypto. A lot of that activity is money laundering by like financial criminal organizations in Europe, and like there are other aspects to it, but I don't know. I wouldn't use like CS:GO as justifying the existence of like financial speculation in games and media. Like I think there's a very big difference between like the user behavior of like tipping people and paying for something that they enjoy versus speculating on it. And I think the main difference is that if you're speculating on something you enjoy, like your enjoyment of that activity is going to be intrinsically linked to like how much money you're making. And like more likely than not, because these like tokens like generally get rugged by creators, and like these creators launch coins on multiple networks, et cetera, like they're gonna have bad price action, and so that's like very hard to like bootstrap a network with. So I'm skeptical of the behavior of like allowing people to speculate on like social media where like the things they're speculating on like just don't really have value. Like you may get like an occasional path dependent, like, oh, this picture pumps to like a few million bucks and some loyal users, but I don't think that's like something that people should count on.
What is CS:GO?
No,
It's an FPS. It's a shooter game. Counter-Strike. 5v5 shooter game.
No, what percentage of that activity do you think is money laundering?
I couldn't say exactly. I'm sure if I went on the internet, I would have a perspective. But like I haven't traded CS:GO skins in like 10 years at this point. But like back when I was trading it, a lot of it was transitioning away from like loyal users of the game to like nefarious activity. And so they like on the Steam marketplace made changes in order to reduce some of these like issues within the game. But like today, CS:GO is not played as nearly as much as what it was like 10 years ago. So you have this financial market as like this game like kind of slowly fades into irrelevance. So it's kind of interesting that it still has such a large market cap associated with it.
Yeah, I think the point it highlights though is that like you can have these like niche financialized products that appeal to a select group, and if that group is willing to, like whales in video games, right? Like if you get 1,000 players that are all willing to dump 20K a year into your thing for whatever reason, they're addicted to it, they just love to gamble, it's their favorite game ever, and they're rich, like that's great and you can make money, but it might not be a mass market appeal app for 1 billion users. Like there can be two different games there. And maybe Noah, just to highlight your point, like we've just seen this several times over with Zora, where the base and like ecosystem kind of pushes the newest update, the newest narrative for it. They get a spike in the activity, but the coins just don't trade well consistently, and we see the volume fall off, and it's not something they've been able to fix quite yet. Even though I can pull up the post metrics, but like total posts have continued to like reach higher highs and higher lows, but it's not been meaningful to the trading volume.
One thing I will say is that point is very, very important, is that you might just be able to appeal to like a very small group. And to me, like I wrote about GameFi maybe 1.5 years ago now, like the only report that I've written on GameFi. And my central point was that I don't think it'll work in the mass market thing, but I think there are games where it's so like I only play one video game, right? And like I have an embarrassing amount of hours in it, but it's like a map game and I just stare at it and that's it. But like if you can find those types of communities, like, and try and monetize that way, I think there's a way to do it. Like CSGO is one of them. Because people who play Counter-Strike, like they only play Counter-Strike and they play the same map over and over again. But I don't think you can monetize. Like people are always like, oh, what about like FIFA Ultimate Team? No, nobody wants to fucking do that on FIFA Ultimate. Like technically it makes sense that you can pull up the numbers and like with the pack opening, there's a loot box element. We could really make some money off of this. I don't see, like I know I have friends who play FIFA Ultimate Team. I don't see them ever doing like a monetized gaming thing. I think the same thing with Zora. My perspective on this is that Ryan and the people like Ryan got into the heads of the Zora people, which was like, oh, you need to have like charts and like coins that you can trade. But I think Zora would have probably done a little bit better if it was just like the sparks and you get to like them and that's it. Like you get to give people some money and they get to give you some money, and that was the whole game. And it's not like everything you post on the internet is a coin and you are inevitably rugging people every single day, right?
I think the last part there is the most critical with regards to like rugging people every day. Like if you can create like a financial instrument that like doesn't go down and like directionally drifts up, that probably can induce a fair amount of user behavior. And I think like the issue that a lot of platforms, and this probably touches a bit on Launchpads as well, is that like if you're like building a product under the predication of like it doesn't take that much effort to build this, the opportunity is I can make like $10 million, you're probably not going to stick around that much. And like similarly to the people that are launching tokens that like are doing it as like meme coins and stuff, like the premise isn't for them to like be valuable, it's for them to pump and then like dump. And so I think like if you have like a creator, for example, that like says, this is my token, it's the only thing I'm ever going to use to represent the value of my stream, I'm going to pump value to it, and like I as a streamer like am going to continue to find success, that might work relative to like the current streaming model. I just think like we haven't really seen that many people that like actually have the like morale or ethics to say like I'm going to stick to this token and like find a way to make it work. It's mostly people that are like playing very short-term games.
Ryan, I want to hear your thoughts on especially the creator coins and the chart thing, because you want them to launch charts in the app, right? Like that's your dream.
Yeah, it's my dream. I think about it often. No, I think yeah, my spiel is Zora's a launch pad, and in order to get alignment with the ETH folks, they can't say they're a launch pad, so there has to be like for some greater ethical goal, which is often the framing of the products over there. And the greater ethical goal is creator monetization. And so in order to like frame the product in that light, like you strip away all the useful features of a launchpad, which is everything that Axiom and Pump have, and leave behind something that looks like creator monetization. And that actually, because it is a launchpad at its core, that strips away all the usefulness of the product. Because launchpads have achieved PMF, like whether we like it or not, there are tens of thousands, perhaps millions of people around the world who have engaged with meme coins on this like little game where you try to make as much money as possible in a very short period of time, and then it goes to zero. Like that's not something that we've had before explicitly, but that's how a lot of games work, right? Where there's some like percentage payoff probability that you're tracking over time, and then you either cash out or it goes to zero. We've never like had it in chart form. So like that's like the whole game is trading that chart. And that's what a launchpad is today. And it is what they built like functionally. And a lot of the efforts have been to, I think, strip away all the useful features. So that's what I think the fundamental problem is over there. And I think that it probably becomes, Base needs kind of like, I think that ecosystem, like these are all very siloed ecosystems still. And I think Base would probably really benefit from leaning into like a silly launchpad, because that's what people want.
They had a few, to be fair, right? They had Flunchy and Clanker.
Right, but that's in the context of like UX issues. So like the reason that they all end up being on Solana is like the game is just like it just feels a lot better on that blockchain. So you're gonna have this kind of like cap on activity on any kind of launchpad product because they are high throughput products.
Yeah, and also Base likes to do this thing where they'll launch a product and then they'll make it like really useless. Like you can launch any meme coin you want, but only on Farcaster, and it's like, what the fuck does this even mean?
I do think I like what Noah said about like we understand inherently, and those in the trenches understand that like the exciting part of this is the pump part, like when the price of the token goes up. And I do feel like the points you highlighted there, Ryan, and I think that we've kind of covered on Zora, sort of explain like how that's kind of at odds with using the platform. Like if you're a creator and then you have 1,000 posts in a month, it's like you can't keep all of those post coins going up. It's just like not going to be possible. You're probably getting rugged on the daily, if not 5 times a day, just because there's so many posts and the attention is like rolling from one to the next, or the bots are flipping in and out of those. But there is something in terms of like kind of having to square this circular peg of like, if pump fun streamers, for example, are now attaching their like identity and streaming presence to this one coin, like rugging people shouldn't be the goal. The goal then should be to like pump the coin. The coin should go up, like ideally, as maybe they grow in popularity, virality, and maybe other mechanisms to where like they do have creator earnings that are sourced from like the trading volume, fee volume on the token. So I don't know. I think they'll have to kind of experiment around like, putting those fees back into the token or doing XYZ other thing, like to see a really like exciting, successful outcome there. Because otherwise you suffer the same problem of like, if a creator can hop in, pump their, get their token pumped to 200K and then it rugs. That's not really going to be exciting for viewers. You want the tokens to keep going up.
Yeah, I mean, and for what it's worth, I am skeptical of the creator monetization framing for Pump as well. I'm pretty skeptical of it, but I think Pump is generating enough cash that it can be, and it has this brand name and it has some degree of distribution. It's best positioned to run those experiments with these like ultra short-term tokens or just like mass issuance of tokens. So there's kind of like no better place to like run that experiment than where all the users are doing weird things.
Danny, should we do 10 minutes of USDH, or do you want to do something else? What would you like?
Yeah, let's talk about it. You lead in. You're way more deep on that than me.
Actually, let me get do we want to talk about this, James, Ryan, Noah, or is this not interesting? Because we can do anything else.
No, go for it. I don't know anything about anything technical, so I have no value to add. I'll just listen.
Okay, so as you guys know, Hyperliquid has a ticker for sale. The rights to buy a ticker called USDH. There are lots of discussions. So there were like 9 proposals made. The big ones were Native Markets, Ifina, Agora, Paxos, Frax, etc., etc. So Frax building out another product as well. Very fun for them. And then now there's like a lot of drama because people are worried that the governance aspect isn't going very well, and they don't know who to vote for. I think it's between Paxos and native markets now, but if anybody else knows better, correct me. I'm just curious, like, have you guys seen anything about it at all, or is this something that's been like completely uninteresting to you because the stablecoin's on Hyperliquid, and you're like, I don't care?
Yeah, all the most recent stuff I've seen, and I'm just gonna throw in some of the context that I've seen thrown around on TT, for example, is that like it seems to be the core of this right now, from what I'm reading, is like native markets. You have Max, who's like Hyperliquid ecosystem, kind of maybe aligned individual, maybe well known within the community, running this like kind of new startup to support this USDH endeavor. And then it seems like really Paxos has been the only meaningful competition. And from what I've seen from Paxos, they've been attempting to utilize maybe their existing connections to like really beef up a really attractive proposal is what it seems. So it's like, we'll use USDH in PayPal and Venmo, and we got Kraken on board and XYZ, this, that, and the other thing. And it seems to be coming down to like this argument over whether I don't know. I see a little bit of like, was native markets kind of chosen from the beginning? I don't know if that's really true, or if it's just like,
I don't. Sorry, finish up.
Just saying, people are going back and forth between like, do we think Paxos is like meaningful enough as a brand or connections or like their history of success or growth versus like this Hyperliquid native ecosystem guy? That seems to be the crux of it.
One thing I'm going to say here is, which I think this will be a fun one to talk about. I don't think native markets was already chosen, because they've already done an already chosen thing with Unit. Clearly gave Unit the rights to buy UBTC, USOL, etc. Like they spun it up pretty quickly. Hyperliquid very rarely tweets about people, but they like quote tweeted and tweeted about Unit a few times. So I think they had the precursor to be able to give some like anointed stablecoin. And they did it, which makes me think that I don't think that it was like something that's already set to go. If anybody has anything else that they don't believe is.
The big thing is that Hyperliquid gets the revenue, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I'll chat about that later as well.
Yeah, to me, that's there's some controversy here for sure. But the most interesting thing is kind of the power that they have. And if other chains like are probably now thinking that they have the power to do the same thing. But I don't know if that's true. Like, I don't know if the other chains have the power to do that, but we'll see.
I don't think they do. Yeah, I'll give some, like, on the revenue side, there were some pretty ridiculous proposals. Like, Agora was like, oh, we'll just give back 100% of all yields and we'll use it to buy Hype, which is not that meaningful at like low, like it's not that meaningful overall because Hype already makes a lot of money. So it's not like a huge addition to it, but it is also like a potential 100 to 200 mil clip at like free build to 5.8 bill supply into Hype, which is not bad, definitely. What is this?
Had Zucky in the chat share where voting power is right now. So it does seem like native markets is kind of running away with this one based on where current like votes and delegations are sitting. And the poly market, like I was showing that before. I think there was a little bit more of a battle here a few days ago, but it maybe since some of the initial like votes have come in, it seems like the market's really converging on.
Well, Ifina also dropped out. They said they don't want to participate. They withdrew respectfully, and they just said we'll just launch it on our own. We'll just buy another ticker.
Yeah, I mean, from an out, I'm not an expert on like the Hyperliquid kind of like community stuff, but it seems odd that they're all fighting over just a ticker. When they can launch their own product if they want. I don't see I don't know, USDH is not the first thing that comes to mind when I want to type in a stable coin.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the piece of this is that you become like the anointed stablecoin of Hyperliquid, and maybe that's meaningful enough to then build out additional products alongside that, further monetize within the ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, I do generally agree with the point there, Ryan.
Yeah,
Plenty of other
I'll
stable
just
kickers. Go ahead, Noah.
put it out there that I've had my fair share of experience in decentralized governance over the past 5 or 6 years, and have worked at funds involved in decentralized governance and kind of have seen how this all goes. And same thing, and that's all the preface. What I'm about to say is not meant in a negative perspective. I just think people need to understand how the game works, which is everything is discussed and handshake agreed upon before it goes to governance. Hyperliquid is not unique. We can argue like how much of the handshake took place, like what explicitly was guaranteed to them. Was it just like, oh, put up this proposal, see who else comes. If nobody else comes, it's yours. I don't know, but like you have a few like pretty successful and meaningful people in this industry that work in native markets, and native markets is doing nothing other than creating this USDH product as far as like the public is aware. And like native markets has been working on this for at least 6 months, if not 12 months. And it just would seem odd to me that they wouldn't be like using their, like Max wouldn't be using his network and Hyperliquid to like back channel with validators and say like, we want to do this. Here's how we're thinking about the product. This is why we think it would be beneficial for the ecosystem. And I don't think that's like a nefarious thing. I just think that's what like a rational actor that's approaching like a building out a business would do. So I don't think like they were guaranteeing the win to native markets, but like there definitely was a lot of politics going on before the proposal hit the Discord.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The thing is that every time I've spoken to Hyperliquid people, they've always said that they actually have very limited communication with the team, to the point that it's slightly annoying. So in my personal opinion is that the thing is that on the one hand, I know that governance in general is mostly a farce, and I'm cognizant that me saying no, this time is different sounds silly. But on the other hand, I am also like, from my experience, from what I've heard, it seems like if this was the case where it wasn't, there was maybe some discussion behind the scenes, but it wasn't like particularly nefarious, I feel like it would be the Hyperliquid team. However, I am financially invested in Hyperliquid, and this might lead me to be more of an optimist. Just like in general, I imagine it was at least less nefarious than what you would probably see in some of the other ecosystems, which I don't think is very.
How many validators are run by the team versus not now?
5 by the team. There's 24 in total, so 19 with that. I think there's 24 in total, by the way.
So
I just added a few.
You could be right, and like you could both be right by both of your statements here, in that he could have not been speaking to the team, but been speaking to all of the other validators up to this point and securing their votes prior to this ever going live.
Yeah, and that's not bad.
In which case, you're both right. It's just, I mean, that's just how you operate to secure stake. But yeah, I mean, I agree with with a lot of what's been said here.
The thing is that I also don't know if Paxos is that good of a proposal, and that's something that if you guys have read into it, we can talk about. But like the big names of PayPal, Venmo, to me seem more like, I don't know. It's not like it's good distribution, but I don't see why Paxos is the almighty great. I like Max. I don't know if you guys can't tell. I like Max Asia and I like native markets, but I don't know. Like Paxos's big selling point is we grew Binance USD to 25 billion. I could have grown Binance USD to 25 billion. Like it's a Binance's USD product. It's not that tough. PayPal and Venmo and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. What
are your thoughts there, Noah, on just on Paxos, or do you have any?
No strong opinions. Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on like who deserves to win this vote. I just have an opinion on like how the vote is determined.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it would probably be much.
Hyperliquid governance is V2 of governance, and it's always better than V1.
No, but I can't imagine. I was thinking about it. I don't think you could have ever done this in a good, like, I think just in general, governance is not. I actually really like the way that Hyperliquid did it the original time, which was just like, the team at Unit, they can build it out. Just let them have it, and they just built it out, right? Like, I think that is probably the best way of governance, and that the team who you trust, who are relatively smart and know their product the best out of everybody else, they just get to pick, and that's how it goes. Or you just make it completely permissionless, so you can just buy whatever ticker you want.
Yeah, that's good. Centralized governance is how most early stage companies move forward.
Yeah.
And like, sure, Hyperliquid's like the same size as NASDAQ now, but that doesn't change the fact that like they're early in their product build out, and like they probably should have a fair amount of centralization as far as how decisions are made. So that's kind of where I land on this whole situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like, these are some of the reasons why you would probably dog ETH, right? For sitting around and like having the nth vote about should we let Raspberry Pis, be the most important part of the network. Having a very like streamlined decision-making process, and aligning around those goals is meaningful. It does give me a little bit of like flashback to Cosmos governance quarrels from last cycle, but it's not really quite the same thing.
The difference is that the underlying token here is going up, so that's the big one.
That's certainly.
Do you wanna roll us out?
Yeah, I think we can call it there. Maybe I'll let you roll us out. If you want to give a quick shout out to the 0x Research newsletter.
Yes. Ryan, do you want to give a quick, but you're not on video, so it might not be as good. Guys, 0x Research has a newsletter written by the Blockworks research analyst team. We do a lot of market updates, as well as we do a top of mind section where we cover what we find interesting. And oftentimes that ends up being related to the reports or the flash notes that we're going to write. So you're getting a sneak peek into the Blockworks research product itself. We use a lot of our own data as well. So if you want to check that out, that would be very, very good. You can find it by searching up 0x Research newsletter on your favorite search engine. And there's a QR code at the bottom right. Danny,
can check the show notes.
And you can check the show notes as well. I think that's it. Ryan, do you have anything you want to say about the Blockworks Research newsletter?
It's very good and shouldn't be free, but it is. So take advantage.
We're doing a lot of stuff. Me and Ryan fought about the title this morning, so it's a very fun process for everybody involved. So please make sure to subscribe to it and check it out.
Oh, actually, you know what? One other thing, we right now, since we were talking about Hyperliquid, you get access to one of our Hyperliquid evaluation reports, recent Hyperliquid valuation report, if you subscribe to the Blockworks Research newsletter. So that link is in the show notes. Check it out. You can read that report and also read the newsletter. Some great insight there that otherwise would not be free, which Ryan prefers. But anyways, we can close it out there, gentlemen. James, Noah, Ryan, thank you guys for joining today. Hopefully we can get you guys on more frequently when you are available. But I feel like we had a great chat today. Great to get your insights. And,
awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Enjoy the weekend.
Folks.
Everybody touch some grass.
See you, boss.
See ya.
See you guys.